Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for what would be our Friday highlight happening here on a Monday. And on Friday, I played the ship pretty much all day. Not all day, but when I was in WoW, I was just playing it most of the day. And I feel like I have a good enough understanding to go ahead and highlight, and we did the upgrade commander build video already on Saturday after I had those battles, and I'm quite comfortable with the build. So I'll put it at the end of the video, and you can click if you want to see the build that I'm running on Niord. But it's the new Tier 9 European Premium Battleship from the Dockyard. To give a little context, I didn't talk about it in the other videos. I'm going to read off the WoW's wiki here, and it talks about this being a fast battleship with a similar layout to the World War I era German battle cruiser designs. Had history taken a different course, she might have been laid down in Germany by 1918, brought by Sweden in the 1920s, and gradually completed by the end of the 1930s. The battleship's artillery armament is supplemented by 4 quintuple tube torpedo launchers. So, I talked about, I think in the first impressions video, or maybe it's even the Upgrade Commander build video, this is a bit of a battle cruiser. Very much in the sense that they talk about her speed. With Brisk, you can get up to 37, which I think Brisk is really great to take on the Niord since your concealment's really strong. It's 12.2. But one of the things that's very much lacking on Niord is her hit point pool. With the Charlie Kilo, you're 67,100 roughly. If I take that combat signal off, you're only 63,900. So you are very much in the low end of the tier 9 battleships in the game in terms of a hit point pool. And I'm going to get into more specifics here about the ship. But if I were to summarize the Niord, I think I still stick with my view from the end of the Saturday upgrade commander build video. And that is that I would say it's a very average battleship, but has a fun factor going for it. So average but fun. I don't know how I'll title this video. And then in terms of, is this a battleship that I'm going to be playing a lot after this? No. If you want my honest opinion. What's interesting is the dynamic and how Wargaming has made this ship, in the sense that she relies on her main battery and her torpedo tubes both doing damage together. She's not a ship that you can play main battery only. She's not a ship that you can really even play torpedo tube only. She needs to get damage from both. Otherwise, this game is my biggest damage game. I think I average about 125,000 damage per game with the Niord, and over a 5 damage ratio. And you're going to be firing high explosive. You will be firing armor piercing, of course, but I would say probably 2/3 of the time, 3/4 of the time, you're firing high explosive. The other part of the time, you're going to be firing your armor piercing. The armor piercing does hit hard. I think it was, let me double check here, 11,600. And honestly, I mean, you need the broadside or a target kind of like this Drake you're going to see here, where he doesn't have to be full on broadside for these 380s to penetrate. And your high explosive is, if it's 34% fire chance, pins 95mm with a damage of 4,500. So like here, I'm waiting for him to get the turn in a bit more before I aim and shoot, and we get a Citadel. One of the things that you'll probably find very frustrating with the Niord is your main battery. It's not always reliable. You'll have broadside targets, say 11-12 kilometers away. You're aiming at a Citadel on the broadside Zal. Half the shots go high into the superstructure, the other half drop down into the water. So she's not a really accurate battleship. She's got a 1.9 Sigma. The higher the Sigma, the better. But even with the aiming systems mod, to bring a -7% on the vertical dispersion and horizontal dispersion, you're still working with a horizontal dispersion of 254 meters and a vertical dispersion of 152 meters. So it's not tight dispersion. And hence why I started this video in talking about that this would have been like a World War I era German battle cruiser. You catch the drift when I'm referencing German, right? German dispersion in the game. A couple of the ships in the game are pretty good dispersion oriented, but you know, if you're playing like the GK, it's a spray and pray, if you will. But so there's a very strong reliance on you hopefully being able to get a lot of damage at both getting damage from both the main battery and the torpedoes. Otherwise, you'll probably get most of your damage with setting fires, which you're going to see in this game. And also if you get some broadside armor-piercing salvos on cruisers and battleships. I had actually up to, I think it was a German battleship, a 16k salvo. That was no citadels. So that was the biggest damage salvo I had so far in playing Niord. And I think otherwise I only just got citadels in like an overpin or something like that. So I think the 16k is the biggest salvo I've had thus far. The battleship is definitely a mid-range battleship. You don't want to be playing far off in the back, and you don't want to be playing up close. For a few reasons. One is if you start playing long range, and I say mid-range is 12 to 15 kilometers, you start playing beyond, really, I mean, even the 12 to 15, like, I mean, watch my salvos here and shooting at the enemy battleship here. They're not consistent. I mean, you'll have a lot of shells that land all around, like there 2 of 8 landed. We're setting fires, we're incapacitating things on him, right? But this part here kind of shows you how the accuracy really, I mean, diminishes as you get out further. I mean, look at that. Let's say it can be 2, 3 shells, 1 shell, right? So when you're trying to, what's frustrating, and you're going to see at the end of this video as well, what's frustrating about this ship is when you have low health targets, and it seems like no matter whether you're firing the high explosive or armor piercing, the accuracy of the main battery guns is so frustrating, and you're not able to always finish off that low health target like before someone else comes in and gets the kill. This Oland is doing great for me. He's spotting, denying the battleship from getting away. It's nice. I'm trying to set another permanent fire even though he's healing. There we had 3 land. I mean, you have a 21.4, but that doesn't mean you should be playing this ship consistently the 15 to the 21 kilometer range. It's best to play 12 to 15. Also that your torpedoes have a 15 kilometer range. I mean, you can torp targets that come in to your range, right? They're Swedish torps. They only hit for 10,700. You have battleships with torpedo belt protection. Maybe you're getting 5, 6, 7k damage out of the torpedo. Pretty effective to saturate areas with the torpedoes, like capture zones and that. So then you want to be playing closer, right? Yeah, there again, low health target, but we do get them with Arsonist there. So it is a frustrating experience with the main battery, but again, the torpedoes really kind of say, hey, play under like 15 kilometers roughly to get the torpedoes off. So we secured this flank outside the DD. I think the DD on enemy DD moves over maybe more towards B. Or no, he moves between A and B. You'll see that shortly. But, and the reason why I say you can't play close range, one is, I mean, you don't have hydroacoustic search. 2 is your lack of hit points. You know, if you get caught up into the higher tier, like let's say tier 10 in super ships, you know, for example, if I reference, I think Montana, 96,000 hit points, GK, 105,000 hit points. This is before you take Charlie Kilo. And then you're over 100k with Yamato, I think with Charlie Kilo. So there's a lot of other brawling battleships and just battleships in general that aren't really necessary brawling battleships that have more hit points. So you have to have this kind of mindful, conservative playstyle with the Niord, which makes it difficult to always like kind of like you're only really a fear factor when you catch people off guard with your torpedoes. I mean, if I'm going to broadside to Niord, I'm like, oh, he probably doesn't have like a super good chance of doing a lot of damage to me with this armor piercing. I mean, it just depends on the range, right? Like there, broadside, destroyer, salvo lands above and below. So that's kind of like the frustrating thing talking about. Like, it's frustrating to me, this is just my personal opinion, it's frustrating to me to play ships that have non-reliant main battery guns. Like, to me, a ship is kind of a make or break, revolving around how good the guns are. Now, I don't always just like referencing accuracy. I mean, you have things like Colombo without the legendary mod, like or Fuso. Like, yes, those ships are accurate, but you're throwing, like, you know, what Fuso is at 12 guns on Fuso, Colombo 16 guns. So the number of guns kind of make up for that lack of accuracy. But when you miss with Niord, and we have main battery slot 3 in the 6th slot for a faster reload time, I think like 18.5. When you miss, it hurts, so to speak, because then you're waiting, you know, another 18 seconds to get your next salvo off. So that's why you need to get the most out of Niord. You need to be getting fires, sticking permanent fires, and you need to be able to get torps. I mean, you've seen how many torps we've fired so far, and we've not had much luck. I think my torpedo ratio hit is like 5%. So the first game, the first impressions we had, that was a rare exception. I'm running Jersey Swirsky as my unique commander, and we've not activated the torpedo talent to get over. If we had 8 torpedoes or more, I think it's a negative 5% on your torpedo reload time. I take him because, you know, there's no other European ships in the game, and this is a premium, so I'm free to run on it. And then we have done enough. We shot down like 20 planes, and then you activate the like plus 10% continuous AA damage. So we've done that before once or twice. I mean, your AA is average. So yeah, so I mean, you're kind of getting the drift of how I'm talking about this ship. I'm not pumping it up. I've had some fun games in it. I mean, I like running the propulsion mod in slot 4. I've had games. I think my record is almost 3 million potential damage with the Niord. I like having propulsion because it's a bit of that. Again, it's more of like a battle cruiser. When you tie it with the brisk, you know, we want to boot and scoogie. Oh, boot, scoot, and boogie. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Out of the way. So on and so forth. So what can I say is like really good about the ship? It's fun. I mean, your ASW is 10 kilometer with the airstrike, which is nice. You can get up to 5 heals. I've had multiple Dreadnought games. I mean, some of the salvos you have, when it works out, dispersion rise, it's nice. Otherwise, it's frustrating to play the main battery. And it can be a bit frustrating when you're not getting much damage with your armor piercing as well. So let me kind of skip back into the game here, talk a little bit more about what's happening. We're behind. It's 3 versus 4. And what's going to be interesting here, I don't know if I agree with the enemy CV's decision. He's going to end up focusing our CV rather than me in the, I think it's a Yarsfeld, I think. Yeah. I don't know why, but that's how he plays. So I don't mind not being focused by a CV. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to go back towards Bravo, and I'm trying to get torps off on where the CV's location is. So I'm looking at the mini map, and I'm seeing where my 15 kilometer is. And I want to see if he's just going to be dumb and keep sitting there and eat torps. So find out what happens there, if that ends up coming to pass or not. We're going to have a frustrating time because of the plane spotting, making it a bit difficult to move around the map. But there is I think it's a Los Andes or Libertad that is really low, who has no more heals left. So we're going to try to take him out, and I'm hoping the CV will get him as well. What makes the ship, the other thing I was going to say, like this ship really good, I mean, you have 12.2 concealment, and you really have to rely on your concealment to manage your hit points, to be able to go dark. So it's a ship that has a conservative playstyle. I mean, don't expect to be carrying games with Niord. It's not that kind of ship that you can have such expectations on it compared to other ships in the game. Like, you know, I'd rather play Iowa than Niord, right? The CV's reversed away, so our torpedoes won't hit. But there's several other tier 9 battleships, you know, I'd rather play than Niord. In terms of battle cruisers, I mean, I think I'd even like to play, was it Schroeder or the Azure more so. than the Niord as well. Like Schroeder, I'm pretty sure has much better accurate guns. Main battery guns, I think also those are 380s, I think, if I remember right. And then, you know, a gear, not as good as Dispersion, but you get 12 guns instead of, or sorry, 9 guns instead of just the 8. But I don't remember the caliber of those either at the moment. So we're going to go a little wide here. Enemy team is just turning into very much of a points game. So enemy team's going to flip C. I'm moving that direction. I didn't know if they were going to push up to B, so that's kind of why I went up and around like I am, because I didn't want to be caught out broadside with the island to my left. So I turned my AA off. One is because I don't want them to throw out ASW planes and figure out where I am, but it ends up not mattering because we want to take the shot and reset the Colombo. Yarsveld is thinking he's probably going to set into B, and he's going to be able to step onto B and cap it because the enemy CV is so focused on taking out our CV, which again is completely fine. So here's an example. We pin Libertad all over. He's 51 millimeter, 5,000 hit points, and 726 damage. And he's only 12 kilometers away. So I'm like very frustrated. Let me try again. I think that salvo is a little high. And I'm going to shoot the Colombo again. Get a fire and 2 shells on the Libertad, and I think he DCP'd the fire. We do get some hits on the Colombo as well. We've got our torpedoes. We got 2 sets of wave coming in. I should have fired the torps all together. I don't know why I held 1 rack back. So a little strange on my part because we would have done even more damage to Colombo in addition to those 2 torpedo hits. And part of the thing with Niord right now, as it's a newer ship in the game, a lot of players aren't going to be so used to the Niord having all these 86 knot torpedoes. I mean, the speed, of course, is great. Again, just under 3,000 hit points. 4 pins. Didn't kill him. Like, what's the deal? Right, so here I was actually like, when I was on the live stream of this game, I was really frustrated with the main battery. I'm like, I know I pinned 95 millimeter, I just need more shells to land, and that was only like, what, 10 kilometers away or something? So I'm really frustrated with the main battery guns at this point because I just want to polish them off. I'm going to angle out here, of course. We're not going to go broadside and flow the game. I'm only trying to secure a kill here just in case our CV is killed by the enemy CV. We need some insurance just in case, as Yarsveld has flipped B, and then he's pushing back in the meantime, which is great. So look at that. 14 hit points. We couldn't kill him with 14 hit points. And we'll dump some more torps, turn out. And now we get the kill. Oh, you know, 4 or 5 attempts later, we finally get the kill. Our CV is helping us out with the Colombo, which is great. I think the Yarsveld ends up stepping in here. Yeah, he drops him in the main battery. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get the kill here. Nope. I mean, the inability of the ship to finish off low hit point targets because of how the main battery functions is just really frustrating, honestly. It's just like, if you need... What I don't like is a ship I can't rely on in terms of the main battery. If you had more guns, I think, you know, that would be I'd probably talk a little more favorable about the Niord, or maybe if the reload time was even lower, I'd probably would not be so rough on it. But I mean, even with the adrenaline rush, I mean, we're probably running around 16 and a half second reload time, something like that right now. Not entirely sure. But it makes it frustrating. So a lot of ships are make and break for with me. If you can rely on the main battery or not. And like you saw in this game multiple times, like you can't rely on the main battery to like get the kill, take out the low hit point destroyer, take out a low hit point battleship, you know, let alone. So it's a very average battleship. It's fun. You know, I understand Wargaming not wanting to like pump more into the guns and not give it torps, because then it's like you just made another Schroeder, right? As we lose our CV. But it relies on both. You have to supplement your damage to the main battery by getting fires or getting torpedo hits. I think otherwise, if you're not good at, like, even though like I'm pretty good at guessing where enemy players are going to go, I mean, a lot can happen, a lot of influence can happen where they change their mind when you're dumping the torps 12 to 15 kilometers away, and I don't think this is a ship that you should build into the torps fully, because like, why not just play Holland, Shimakaze, or other ships at that point. So 160,000 damage with Dreadnought, Wither, and Arsonist with the 2 kills, 13 defended ribbons, 78 main battery hits. Now let's see how many shells I fired. Over 1,800 base XP. The Libertad, Nakimov, and Yamato were doing pretty good. Thankful for the Yarsfeld and our Midway. Also did a really good job, and he got even more base XP with all the planes shot down. Let's see, we fired 196 shells of the high explosive and 24 of the high explosive. So we're over 200 shells with like less than a 50% ratio of landing shells on target. So, I mean, if that helps tell you anything, like you can even rely on your shells to like the majority of your shells to hit the target half the time. Like, it's less than a 50% chance that your whole salvo will 8. Like, basically, like, of every 8 shells you fire, 3 will land, roughly, right? And of course, it depends on how close you are to the enemy ships or how far away they are. So, but you get an example of that. This ship isn't meant for pushing in. It's much more of a kind of a kiter. If you make it to the last half of the battle, kind of like we did, then you get to exert a little more influence into the game, right? So we had a low health Colombo, we had a low health Liberty to take out. The CV pretty much left us alone, which was nice. So enemy CV just kind of, I think, prioritized the wrong target there towards the end. So, so that's my thoughts on Niord. I don't know if maybe in the long-term future I have another video with this ship, but honestly, you know, I say it's average but fun, but I'm really pushing saying average. It just depends on how well you can manage getting torp hits and how consistent you are with fires. But yeah, if you have a frustrating experience with battleships and shooting torpedoes, you probably won't like the ship. That's all I can say. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.